Cinephile ASMR, and today we are not just talking about one movie, we are talking about two films. First, Terrifier 3, and then Smile 2. If you are here to just talk about and listen to one, I recommend both if you're a true cinephile head. But if you're only here to listen to one, there will be timestamps down below. Welcome on in, everybody. How are you doing this morning, afternoon, preferably evening, given the context of these movies? I think just the aroma, atmosphere, and energy needs to be best and strongest suited at night. But hey, I'm not judging. To each their own. Let me know, though. I'm so curious. And if you are new, again, I'm Cinephile ASMR, your go-to shop for all things movies and tingles. So, if you haven't already, please subscribe, hit that notification bell. That was actually pretty good. Wait. I feel like it sounds a lot better in my head than it actually does. Let me know. And then please follow my letterbox for the most up-to-date reviews before I actually hit the record button and make a video for you guys. Now, this is a bit unorthodox considering that I mainly make videos talking about the sole specific one movie in each video. But this, I think, warranted a much more interesting position to have both of these films in making a video, because as I will discuss in both Terrifier 3 and Smile 2, they are conjoined in some very fascinating, nuanced, and obvious ways, and I wanted to talk about them kind of in release order. But yeah, so if that is kind of something you're wondering, there's reasons to which I will explain. What a time to be alive as a horror fanatic, but that's aside from the point. Let's talk about what Terrifier 3, first up, is about. 5 years after the grisly, horrific, scarring moments that Sienna Shaw and her brother had to witness, you center on her once again as she's trying to rebuild, grow anew from the trauma that she is not going to be defined by. But old wounds scab and do not disappear, as Art the Clown is coming closer and closer back into her psyche and the real life she is trying to live. So, let me take a step back to talk about Terrifier as a franchise and Art the Clown as his influence on me. Not saying that like I take inspiration from Art the Clown, but like many others, I have heard about Art the Clown for years, even prior to Terrifier 2 coming out. I've seen his face. There's that like iconic scene or moment from the first Terrifier, I believe, where he's like in a diner and he's just making all those weird faces at these girls, and I was like, this is cool. And then when Terrifier 2 started making its rounds on social media, I don't think, even to this day, maybe second to Long Legs, I have seen a horror film take center stage, and basically the users of TikTok make the marketing for it. It had a budget of $250,000. I had not, even to this day, seen a single trailer for it, but word of mouth alone pushed it to making over $10 million. I got to see it, and I distinctly remember in my local theater, my Regal, playing it, had like a showing each day on the weekend, and it was sold out every single time. They expanded it to 3, then 5 showings, and in mine, I was lucky enough, and I say that with the utmost sarcasm, to have someone who thought it was a brilliant idea to dress up as Art the Clown with his sack and walk around the auditorium. I legit thought I was gonna die. Thought it was gonna be over. I was texting my loved ones. My point is, I have a very fun, to an extent, fond memory of that second movie. I love the hell out of it. I have grown to appreciate it more and more. It's like almost 2.5 hours. It's grisly, century done in every best way possible, on and off the camera. Lauren Lavera, David Howard Thornton, everyone, Damien Leone, of course. I was like, dude, this is so awesome. And as someone who really tries to live in the social media moment, witnessing this movie grow its legs through people calling it the goriest film they've ever seen, the worst film they've ever seen, but it starting a conversation nonetheless, I was there for. And the way it ended, I was like, okay. And I knew they were making a third one, obviously, because of how successful it would be. And that, to me, is a Halloween staple. So going in, when they announced it was going to be set during Christmas, something you need to know about Cine over here, movies are automatically catapulted by interest depending if they are in and or around a holiday. Christmas time movies, Halloween time movies, they are my weakness. So good. And I was like, sign me up, take my money. And thus, I jumped in to Terrifier 3. And what did I think? Considering that its big clown shoes of a second film were very big, and this was promising a lot. And I know I'm kind of like milking this, but I think there's a lot of context here. I think there is a lot. And let's just acknowledge for one moment the insanity that is this movie being as successful as it was. Again, number 2 made for $250,000, made $10 million. 3 made over, thus far, $30 million on $1 million budget, is beating the other clown film, Joker 2, is unrated. I got a warning at my theater that this is a grisly film because people are going to be scarred. They're fainting, vomiting, passing out, all of these things. And I just think we need to acknowledge the pure insanity of a moment in time we are in right now to have this film exist but flourish as well as it's doing. Many ways that we need to be concerned about the industry and its carbon copy and paste sort of mantra. Horror has never, and I mean never, been in a better place. So I stepped into Terrifier 3, and full disclosure, I have seen this twice now. I came out of it the first time disappointed. I liked it quite a bit. I think there is so much that the movie does in terms of improving on its second in a lot of ways. Visually, it is shot and lit almost like the way you would remember Christmas as a kid. The fuzzy, warm lights, the set design, it felt like Christmas to me. And not since Michael Dougherty, the man who did Trick or Treat and Krampus, have we gotten a filmmaker that has made iconic films for both most popular holidays that work a majority of the time. Trick or Treat, classic. Krampus, brilliant. I don't care what anybody says, that is on the rotation every single year. Chef's kiss. And Damien Leone proves kind of from the jump with an opening that is unbelievable, Hall of Fame worthy, iconic, gory, gnarly, mean. Hold on to that word. I was transported. I loved it, and I was enjoying every single moment of it. And we will get, because honestly speaking, this movie has one glaring flaw. I'm gonna get to that, but there's a lot of positives I want to sing first. Leone really does establish himself as a more patient filmmaker in the way in which he is able to write the characters he created. Second, had some of the most vile concoctions of murders happen that would make Billy the puppet, honest to God, have his jaw hanging. And you know, it plays itself as silly a lot of times, but if you're gonna maintain that same main character of Sienna in 2 to 3, you gotta betray how much it affects her. And I really, hear me out here, I feel like it does a really good job depicting trauma, anxiety, and just pent-up emotion from traumatic events that have happened. And that is in large part due to Laura Lavera, who Jesus Christ, guys. She is just on all cylinders, knocking it out of the park. And it's funny, this movie is shorter than the second, but in this, it feels like she has grown up because of what she has witnessed. The trauma, the anxiety, her nerves are shot, but she's trying so desperately to make something new of herself. And the way that Lavera conveys that, the moments that let her breathe with her aunt, the new family she's with her brother, it is terrific. There's a moment with her and her aunt reminiscing about a certain character. Spoiler, her mother who died in the second. And it was just like, I started tearing up. It's all on the emotional willingness. Leone as a screenwriter and a director, but as well, heavily Lauren Lavera's conviction. I was shocked. And that does pour into the performances. I feel this is just a more mature version of 2, set in Christmas, but also dealing with the effects of the second. And what I loved about the second, that when I first watched the third, I felt was missing, was the second really does root itself in almost having this mythical fantasy-like edge to itself, whether it is in Sienna's costume, the sword, her finding herself. It is this unique blend of fantasy, horror, and gore, and I was like, I'm not feeling that in here. But in the rewatch, it really does tie a unique bow by having something much more biblical. And I was like, wait a minute. And there is a moment in the opening, not really spoiling much here, where Art the Clown, and we will talk about David Howard Thornton and Art the Clown's moral compass, or Kobe, the lack thereof. But the opening is a bloodbath, a slaughterhouse, and just as the worst finishes, it cuts to a nativity of Jesus being born. And it's like, oh, what? I know, and there was people that were standing outside the theater professing this to be blasphemy. I don't put too much validity into that. I think Damien Leone was taking a big hit of some sauce that he was cooking in his stew, and it is crazy. It is, and what's funny, and we'll wait until I talk about my big flaw, is the movie really does hint at some heavy biblical referencing imagery. There is moments that take place inside of like a pew of a church, a lot of crosses, and I say this because it feels like Leone is setting up something a lot more mystical from the second, biblical from the third, and where the movie ends off, it may just wind up being the craziest film we've ever seen. I'll touch more on that when we get to my one flaw, though, because we have to kind of set the table for Art the Clown. Lauren Lavera, as this inherent good, is only as good as the evil and the wretchedness that is Art the Clown. Unlike any of the other killers, well, actually, no, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, actually a lot of them don't talk. I take that back. He doesn't speak. But what is most different is he is like a clown. He pantomimes, and that is the thing. You will question your own humanity, as when he is brutally killing people, sawing off limbs, blood is splurting everywhere. He has these facial expressions, and you cannot help but laugh. And to me, that is the best sign of a horror film, when at a split second you think to yourself, is that a human being? Wait, that's an actor, right? That actor has to be roaming the earth just as I am. He seems insane. And you see interviews with the director, Lauren Lavera, Elliot Fulman, David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown. He's the nicest dude ever. And I'm thinking to myself, you got something, man. You're scary. He is incredible in this. His conviction, his delivery, his expressions, the way he emotes, it is one of a kind. And that really does set the movie up for a unique predicament. You don't know where the buck stops. man is not racist, sexist, ageist. He goes for whoever. And this movie proves that in ways that ups the second. And I'm like, jeez Louise. It was like I had to look at myself from like an astral projected way. And I was like, Santa, what are you doing, man? You can't be laughing at this. But hey, I think that is the beauty of Terrifier. It's like you can check your consciousness at the door and tune in to some horrific fun. And that is what you get. Damien Leone proved himself more than ever here as a confident and assured filmmaker. You know, there's the people that are like, oh my god, Terrifier 3, what is this? It's disgusting. Dude, if you're going to a farm and you're getting upset that you're going to see some animals, that's on you. But then there's also this very unique conversation that is being had where people are saying Terrifier 3 doesn't have anything to say, and then there's people that are really trying to take it for what it is and dive into it. Now, personally, there is commentary that I have heard that I cannot speak on. What I think is so universal and unique but also individual about horror in a genre is the way that people can prescribe how they feel onto the characters on screen. The final girl term was coined for a reason, and in a world where we hear so much stories of domestic abuse and violence running rampant, it feels beautiful to hear stories, again, not ones that I can connect with, but I can hear and acknowledge and understand, of women saying that someone like Sienna Shaw fighting for her individuality, her life against Art the Clown, means something to them. And for that alone, yeah, you know, it is a gore fest. You can call it trauma, corn, whatever, but I think there is merit to it. And I think when you have an eye like Damien Leone does, and he's able to frame things in such a unique, beautifully eye-popping way, and it's all practical, I gotta give the film damn props. And that was what I was feeling for 2/3 of the film, and spoiler-free. But on a rewatch, I'm a bit more lenient here. I gotta admit, there is an off-screen kill that happens to a character, and it is revealed after the fact, and for shock value's sake, and for where the plot goes in that last 20 to 30 minutes, it works. But it's like Damien Leone does such a good job with the writing and the way that that character works alongside Sienna, the main character, that when they are killed, it feels like it isn't fully earned. The shock is there, but the way that they are left off just feels unsatisfying. And I was stewing with that the first time, and it ends, and I was frustrated. And then I find out later online through an interview he does that he had to cut or scrap about 7 pages worth of the script and around like 15 to 20 minutes of the movie to kind of trim that runtime down, because that is like the main complaint that people have with the second, is that it's too long. And in my opinion, he does such a good job at pacing the film, it feels like it goes by too fast. And it can, honestly, I wouldn't even be blaming people if they felt like the ending is rushed to bait people into what the fourth can be. I'm not gonna lie, if he owns up and lives up to the promises of what the ending to 3 is, we have no idea. This movie is going to probably make $50 million on $1 million budget. He could use $10 million, and it is going to shock the world as we know it. And even on a rewatch, I understand it a bit better, but it doesn't make me forgive the film as much, and it does suck, unfortunately, because I think it leads up, and the build up to it works tremendously. The character beats, the kills, the way that it jumps back and forth between Art and Sienna, and just that dichotomy with the biblical imagery, the way it is shot, the homages, the actors. There is a bar scene with a Santa, that's all I will say. That's Hall of Fame worthy, baby. Hall of Fame worthy. But it leads to that death and the kill. And I still am disappointed with it. I don't know if those extended scenes and the extra runtime would have changed that fact, but the jump from where the character is in one scene to then their death, it felt so sudden, and I'm being cryptic here. If you've seen it, you know exactly what I mean. Let me know if you agree. But it felt unearned. It felt frustrating. But I gotta admit, those last 20 minutes rip to no level. It is crazy. And that quite literally is my number one and only flaw. Everything else is working on all cylinders. And I came out of the theater just like 2 hours ago, and I was driving home, and I was like, no way at 10:30 on a weekday am I quite literally watching this movie in a semi-full crowd, and this movie is making as much money as it is. We live in a world that often doesn't reward us in subtle ways, but we gotta take the victories when we can, and this is a major one. Who knows if people are going to take all the wrong lessons for it, but the fact that we have a new horror icon solidified in the iconography with Leatherface, Pinhead, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Art the Clown is here to stay, baby. A final girl that is also going to stand among the ranks. Damien Leone cooking. I pray the man gets a Friday the 13th stab. I really do. That needs a revival, because this movie's terrific. It has solidified myself as a horror fan, but also a Christmas horror fan. It doesn't reach the highs of like a Black Christmas 1970s, but it is getting better and better the more I think about it, and it works as a terrific companion piece to 2. I still think I prefer 2 though, but with all that being said, ending choice that does leave my head frustrated, scratching, but a lead up, atmosphere, kills, gore, meanness, no moral compass to Art the Clown. I gotta give this movie a strong B+. When I first saw it, it was like a B, but I'm very much more warm on it, and I loved it. So let me know what you thought of Terrifier 3 down below. But then we have Smile 2, a movie let's talk about for a second. Following quite literally days after the events of the first Smile, through a series of the smiling events, it leads itself onto Sky Riley, a pop singer who has fell from grace through a few very questionable actions, but she is on the comeback tour. But at the height of it all, she gets infected by the Smile curse, and thus she has to find a way to save herself before it is too late. So again, I wanted to do a video talking about both of these films, and it really does come down to having seen Smile 2 after Terrifier 3, and there's a lot of similarities. And for one, the openings of both of the films set the stage and the groundwork for what's to come, whether it be Art's malevolence or Parker Finn, the director of Smile 2, his ability to cook with the damn camera. The opening quite literally is like a 5 to 6 minute one take that encapsulates the hysteria, the paranoia, the imminent dread that is imbued with both Smile films, and that is a great opportunity actually to kind of talk about my thoughts on Smile 1. And again, another similarity, I have very unique, very vivid memories of having seen Terrifier 2 and Smile 1. When I went to go see Smile, it was like an ordinary day, and I remember liking the film, but I was in a really bad mental headspace. And if you have seen Smile, that ending is mean. That ending, I would argue, is very evil in a way where its story is so heavily predicated on mental health, on trauma, on trying to kind of be more than that, be more than your environment lets you become. And the ending kind of feels like a to me with the worst taste in my mouth, and I never reviewed it on this page. And it's funny, I had set up everything, I'd gotten all the footage, the trailers, the shots. I saw the movie, I didn't even want to talk about it, so I kind of let that infamy grow and fester. But then I decided to rewatch it the day I saw Smile 2. It doesn't hold up nearly as much, unfortunately. It does that trope that frustrates me to nauseam in certain horror films where there's clearly something happening to the main character. We as the audience know what they're going through is legitimate, but it takes so long to convince the people around that person that what they're going through is real and not fiction. And they think that they're crazy, they think that the main character's out of their mind, and it feels like a hurdle that we have to get to for that final act. It's like found footage films, how it gives you little breadcrumbs of jump scares for like the last 20 minutes to be really good. It is frustrating. I think the first one really does live in that space, and it carries with it a really, really eye-rolling dynamic between the main character and her husband. She's like a psychiatrist, and he's like, you know, I googled mental illness, you're not right. What? My point is, it is good. It has moments and jump scares that I think are quite effective, but it really is that ending that makes it really worthwhile for me. So what I'm saying here is, I was really looking forward to Smile 2, because I just think the concept alone of, instead of following like a medical physician and now you're following a pop icon, is just more investing than that. And I think this movie freaking rocks. I think Smile 2 takes everything a sequel should, amplifying the first, justifying its existence, elevating itself in every conceivable way, technically on and off the screen, in such a profound improvement that I honestly am willing to go as far to say you could go the rest of your life not watching Smile 1, because in a way, and I could see this very much as a flaw, it is Smile 1.5 in the way that it's structured, but it does everything so much better, swing after swing, left and right. Jump scares, I hate. I'm going to sound like a hypocrite, because in past videos where I've talked about horror, I think in my Skinamarink review, I talk about how that film is weighed down because of the inclusion of jump scares. Parker Finn sat me on my ass and told me that there is a purpose and there is a way to use jump scares right, and the building blocks are there and exist when you earn them, when the setup is twice as good as the payoff, and it makes the payoff just as effective. I physically cannot understate how there is probably over a dozen jump scares and all of them work. There are some that quite literally and this hasn't happened to me in a long time. Like, I think this year for horror has been exceptional. Not in even the first Omen, Long Legs, Late Night with the Devil, none of them have made me jump. Smile 2 made me jump like 3 to 4 different times. And it really is all so heavily riding on the performance of Sky Riley, and having Lemonade Mouth veteran Naomi Scott take this film by the horns and show it who's boss. I don't say this often. I really don't, and it's been days since I've seen Smile 2, so I don't want to speak out of line or in hyperbole. If let's say I could create the ballot for Best Actress, Naomi Scott would be in it, because you have to understand, she is conducting the choreography, she's dancing, she's singing, but she's also going insane all throughout it. It's like a nice charcuterie board, and you're stacking the cheeses, which are all of the talents, but the spear that pokes through all of it is the fact that she has the smile curse, and it is like, girl, what are you doing? What is happening? You gotta get out. fascinating. The way that Smile 1 ends, spoiler alert, nothing is solved. It is just the cycle going again and again. And so in the second, you really don't know anything more after having seen the first. You're hoping that things change, but you don't know. And I think Parker Finn really plays with that at a writing technical level, because he really does blur the lines of what is fact or fiction. You don't know if what is happening is real or if it is days elapsed in this Smile fantasy. And for some, that can be very grating. For me, I found it a very unique exercise, because no matter if it is real or not, by the end, every moment is handled with such intricate care and detail. It is brutal. Both of these films are very mean. Basically, like, you have one which is the demented, brutal, physical ex-cousin that the family doesn't really like, and Art the Clown is just railing on people. But then you have Smile, which feels kind of like a vortex of dread, where as you're watching it, you are hoping it goes well, and it maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But all I'm gonna say is I knew kind of off the jump, given that this is about a pop star singer, where the ending was gonna go, and it goes there actually pretty much to a T of how I predicted it. But it earns itself through the journey that you go on, and it handles itself so maturely and just out there that I have no issue calling Smile 2 one of the greatest horror films of the 2020s. Like, there is a scene in this movie where, and all I will say, it involves choreography and dancers that, I just got head to toe chills. I think is one of the greatest horror set pieces ever put to screen. I think it takes its concept and runs with it so much so. I said earlier, it feels like you don't need to watch Smile 1. This feels like the Smile movie that Parker Finn wanted to make but didn't have the budget to do it. And the way that Terrifier 3 ends and the way that Smile 2 ends are evil, actually putrid. Like, whip out the sage, start saying it's a bruja, and throw some holy water on it. They are that evil. It's an entirely different beast in many aspects, but is married to Terrifier 3 in wicked lead female performances, in crazy set pieces, in endings so mean, and an atmosphere of just melancholic nihilism, most especially in Smile 2. It is rare that I say being treated like crap and feeling like I'm losing my mind is fun. Smile 2 gives you that. It is shot like a horror film I've never seen before. It really does move the camera in ways, and it does this thing that I love so much that I wish more horror movies did, which is treating the camera like maybe not a POV per se, but it reacts in a way as if you are looking at the horror, or you look away, or you react to a noise, versus, like, take for example, this camera is recording me stationary. In a lot of horror films, if I hear a noise and I'm looking here, the camera is going to cut to a shot stationary again in that area. But in Smile, it moves like it has a movable neck. And I know I'm sounding kind of insane, and it does seem pretty baseline, but nobody's doing it the way that Parker Finn and his camera operator are doing it. And that score, oh my god, it really does feel like you are in the jowls of hell and your skin is being melted, dude. I really don't like talking about it. It is that scary. And, you know, people might be thinking I'm speaking out of turn or I'm crazy for thinking this. I loved it. Thus far, it is my horror film of the year, but I don't like to compare my babies. I love them all. This year's actually been really good for horror, except for the bum house like Night Swim and Imaginary. even those weren't as disappointing as Maxine. They're over there at the kiddie table during Thanksgiving. We got all the good eats of horror movies. And honestly, Smile 2 with a transcending performance from Naomi Scott, direction that has an absolute hound dog in Parker Finn, moments, setups, payoffs, jump scares, scenes, that choreography moment. Good lord. But all that to say, I loved Smile 2 so much, so much. I'm very intrigued to see where it lands in my ranking of 2024 films, but for now, it's in my top 5. I'm gonna give it a strong A. Just two absolutely wicked films that would make for really great double features at home with Smile and Terrifier 2, and then followed by great theatrical doubles with Terrifier 3 and Smile 2. I don't know which one I would recommend watching first, because Smile 2's ending is so mean, but Terrifier, go at your own discretion. That's all I'm gonna say. I love them. Horror really does just have such a unique flavor and vibrancy to it that we can be living in a weekend where 2 horror films are dominating above Joker 2. What? Like, before this, I was so upset that Joker 2 was coming out a week before these horror films because I thought it was going to overshadow them. But now I'm thinking these horror films should have released later to give Joker time. This was a long one, but I'm so glad to talk to movies and talk about them talk to movies. I'm losing my mind. It's late, but I love it. You guys give me purpose. You guys give me air in my lungs, and I love you so much. Above all, though, I create these videos to hear your input and thoughts on these movies, so please comment down below what you thought of Smile 2, Terrifier 3, what you liked more.